Welcome, everyone. I'm Karen Contreras, and these are my colleagues Guadalupe Contreras and Lilian Leana. And well, we're very happy to be here and being part of this forum. We come from the Universidad Veracruzana. Specifically, we're students from the Masters in Teaching English as a Second Language. And today we're going to talk about the correlation between teachers' self-efficacy beliefs and burnout syndrome. And it's going to be focused on a post-pandemic study. And first of all, what is burnout? Burnout is a syndrome characterized by feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, or feelings of negativism or cynicism related to one's job. Actually, according to the Instituto Mexicano del Seguro Social, 75% of Mexican workers of any field have suffered or are suffering from the burnout syndrome. And here we have three dimensions or elements that create burnout. The first one is emotional exhaustion, which is a sensation of being exhausted by the psychological efforts made at work. It doesn't matter if it's just sitting down in front of a screen the whole day, you will end up exhausted. The second dimension is cynicism or depersonalization. This is the interpersonal component of burnout. It happens inside the person. There are no visual or evident signs of it. And it is characterized by feelings of detachment, indifference, and unconcern towards work. One clear example of this may be when a person is fired and they don't even care anymore. And the last dimension is reduced personal achievement, which is a negative professional self-evaluation and doubts about the ability to perform the job effectively. This is closely related to the term self-efficacy, which will be dealt with in the next part of this presentation. Well, we all know that burnout may affect any kind of field, any kind of profession. However, today we're going to focus on the impact it has had on teachers. And well, apart from this, we all know that COVID-19 pandemic changed everyone's lives, especially teachers, because of the whole change of routine they had to suffer through this lockdown. And well, in Mexico, during the COVID-19 lockdown, teachers suffered from depression, anxiety, stress, burnout syndrome, and also their mental health was negatively affected. And these are some of the factors that may create or develop a burnout syndrome in any person. There are more factors, however, today we're only going to focus on two. First, personal factors, which are gender, age, and number of years teaching. And then we have some major findings that were gathered in different studies. First, it was found that female teachers felt higher levels of stress compared to male teachers. Surprisingly, younger and less experienced teachers obtained a higher score in terms of burnout, even though the years of teaching is way less compared to other teachers. And finally, COVID-19 pandemic affected all teachers' performance regardless of their years of experience. For the other type of factors, we've got organizational. This is based on the interaction between teachers and the institutions they work for. And some of the findings that were gathered were that primary school teachers reported a higher level of burnout compared to middle or high school teachers. Why is this? The factors are there. Because of workload, lack of contact with colleagues, inadequate pay, students' behavior problems, difficult relationship with parents. These are factors that primary school teachers need to deal with every single day of their teaching performance. And why is burnout so popular these days? Because it carries a lot of consequences to a teacher's daily life. These are some of the most common ones: depression, anxiety, fatigue, irritability, frustration, professional inefficacy, overwhelming feelings, negative health outcomes, diminished self-efficacy, and of course, all of this may lead to teacher dropout, which is something that all schools and institutions would like to avoid. And well, linked to the previous slide, in 2022, the National Education Association showed that 55% of teachers were considering leaving the profession. And some of the primary reasons for this were the challenges connected to the COVID-19 pandemic, and of course, some symptoms of the burnout syndrome. Now, my colleague Lily is going to tell us what is self-efficacy.
Thanks, Karen. So self-efficacy. Okay, so self-efficacy, according to Bandura, is a person's confidence in their own ability to carry out a certain job or action. And in the case of teachers, it refers to how confident teachers feel about themselves to carry out certain tasks that the job demands. Also, the author lists 4 sources for self-efficacy. Number 1 would be mastery experiences, which refers to the successes and failures that teachers have during their career. Number 2 would be vicarious experiences, which is basically learning through the experiences of other teachers. Then number 3, verbal persuasion, which this refers to any type of feedback, positive or negative, the teachers receive regarding their performance. Most of the time it has to come from any credible sources or authorities. And then number 4, we have the physiological and affective states, which, as the name says, it refers to any physical or any emotional reactions or experiences that teachers go through during their performance and during their careers. Now, the self-efficacy theory is relevant here because it has been previously linked to the burnout syndrome, so this burnout phenomenon that has been developing in the last few years, and it has also been used to explain the burnout syndrome per se. Here we have some research examples. We have Ramadi that says that self-efficacy is a strong predictor of subsequent task-specific performance. Those who do not have self-efficacy become easily burnout, and they have less ability to adapt to any teaching environment. Then Skalvik and Skalvik say that high levels of teacher self-efficacy reflect low levels of burnout, and vice versa. Low levels of teacher self-efficacy reflect high levels of burnout. Then Alibakshi et al., they say that self-efficacy has an effect on teachers' levels of burnout and also on their psychological well-being, in addition to an effect also to their job satisfaction. And finally, we have Kin et al., and they say that teacher burnout is indicated by many personality characteristics, and among these characteristics, we can find low levels of self-efficacy. Okay, so why is it important then to study EFL teachers' self-efficacy perceptions? The importance lies in the benefits that comes with studying and paying attention to this aspect. And it is also related to the teaching process. Some of the benefits are, first of all, a better teaching process, which then can reflect on students having better achievements. It also prompts a positive educational environment, and it can help us to enhance classroom management, teachers' application of instructional strategies, and it also helps improve student engagement. Now, as we have seen, there are many studies that discuss teacher self-efficacy, and also other studies that talk about the relationship between self-efficacy and the burnout syndrome. However, we have noticed that there exists a latent research gap regarding self-efficacy beliefs and perceptions, specifically when it comes to Mexican EFL teachers, and even more so, studies that refer to this during and after the COVID-19 pandemic. So in order to contribute a little to decrease that research gap, the follow study was carried out.
Well, the name of this study is Post-Pandemic Mexican EFL Teachers Self-Efficacy Perception. And what we wanted to know and to research was to find out whether what we as EFL teachers experienced during the COVID-19 lockdown modified to a certain extent their self-efficacy positively, which means that even though we went through all these difficult negative emotions and burnout, maybe we can also have positive effects. To carry out this mixed method research, we use an instrument, and it was an electronic Google Forms survey, which was based on the 4 sources that Lily explained a few minutes ago about the self-efficacy expectations according to Bandura. In the qualitative data, we included 26 close-ended questions in which we wanted to research on the performance accomplishments of teachers, and we also wanted to know about teachers' resource of learning in the use of technology during the pandemic, which is related to vicarious experience. We asked the teachers also about from whom they received verbal persuasion, if of course it was positive, and we also inquired them about the psychological states and emotions that they experienced during the pandemic. We also included one open-ended question to gather qualitative information. The question was, do you consider your performance in teaching has improved, and why? To carry out this research, we went through 3 phases. In the phase number 1, we looked for a sample of Mexican EFL teachers who had worked before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and after, so that they could have a better view of what or how they felt before the pandemic about their performance and after it. In the second phase, we sent the instrument, the Google Forms survey, through a link, and the information was collected automatically by Google Forms. And in the final stage, we both quantitative and qualitative data was categorized, contrasted, and analyzed. What we found after analyzing all this data and contrasting them, we found that in the qualitative data, most Mexican EFL teachers consider themselves to be more skillful in the use of ICT or technology, and also in classroom management. They also consider themselves to be skillful in their knowledge and assessment of the English language, and also their ability to motivate the students in their learning process. As for the qualitative data, we realized that 80.6% of the participants in this survey consider that their performance has positively improved after the pandemic, especially in the use of technology in the classrooms. Some other, after analyzing all this data, we also found some key features that we're gonna mention. EFL teachers' main source of learning about technological resources was self-learning through tutorials, which is closely related to vicarious. And we also learned that EFL teachers received positive comments about their mainly from family and friends, and not so from peers or superiors or even students or students' parents. And that also, despite suffering from severe levels of anxiety, stress, and burnout syndrome, as Karen previously mentioned, depression was not experienced at high levels and sometimes not even experienced at all. And finally, what we can conclude is that both qualitative and quantitative findings confirmed the hypothesis, which was that even though teachers, or especially EFL teachers, even though they went through difficult situations, through high levels of burnout during the pandemic, the achievements that they managed to have, overcoming the difficulties that we faced during the pandemic, were positive in a sense, and increased their levels because of the achievements, and also that vicarious experience, and also the positive comments from family and friends function as an impulse to find or to see themselves that they are that they have a better level of self-efficacy at what they do.
As stated before, self-efficacy plays a pivotal role on teachers' daily performance and students' learning process. And we believe that this diagram can help us see more clearly the correlation between these two main themes, which are self-efficacy and burnout syndrome. So first, we start with something that we all as English teachers have suffered or have found in our classrooms, which is students' disruptive behavior. It has happened more commonly nowadays. And well, this is related to self-efficacy, because if you feel that you cannot control the group, your self-efficacy levels will decrease, because you feel that you don't have classroom management, you do not feel ready or prepared to be in front of the class. And if these low levels of self-efficacy are not treated correctly, they may develop into burnout syndrome, with all the consequences that this may carry. And of course, this may become an endless cycle if this is not treated, because if you get burnout syndrome, there will be evidence inside the classroom and students will feel it too. So to avoid this, it is very important to get external praise, specifically from peers or from the institution itself, so this cycle can be broken before it affects our students.
Some of the conclusions that we gather are mainly two, which the first one would be that the findings that we gather from the study concur with Weissenfels et al., which is that changes in accomplishments were highly related to changes in teacher self-efficacy, which increased when the authors compared teacher self-efficacy and burnout in 2019 and the year 2020. And the second main conclusion is that the higher the teacher self-efficacy perception is, the less likely it is for teachers to be negatively affected by burnout syndrome. And this is also stated by Schwarzer and Halem. They say that teacher self-efficacy is a personal resource factor that may protect from the experience of job strain and thus make the escalation of burnout less likely. So that would be everything from our part. We would like to thank you for your attention and your time. If you happen to have any questions, we will be glad to hear from you. Here you have our email addresses in case you want to contact us and discuss anything that you heard on our talk. And here you have the list of references for all the literature that was used for our study. Then again, we thank you a lot and goodbye.